It's that time already. We're on to week 3 and our 6-pack of picks, our 6 favorite games, one of them being the Thursday nighter. We got the Sunday nighter in our 6-pack, as well as we get ready for some injury-riddled teams actually preparing for week 3 of the NFL season coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Getting into our 6-pack of picks on today's program. And I do want to thank all the everydayers out there and all the new listeners. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And for us, Matt, we will get started with Thursday Night Football. And it is the New York Jets hosting the New England Patriots. The Jets favored by 6.5 points here. Both teams coming in at 1-1. It's a pretty big line for a team against the Patriots that has been very competitive, and in fact, more competitive than maybe people expected. And the Jets have only been competitive in one football game so far.
Yeah, and I like what the Pats are doing. I don't know how sustainable it is, but they're running the football. The O-line's playing a little better than I thought. I had very low hopes for it. The skill guys haven't hurt them. Hunter Henry's having a nice year. The defense remains better than I expected after the loss of Judon and Barmore. But what worries me a little bit about the Jets is the thing that's always been a Niners-Jets staple is just great D-line play with 7 or 8 really good players there. And besides Quinn and Williams, I'm a little worried about the Jets front, and the defense hasn't been great this year. So I don't know if they win the physicality battle, and I think the Patriots hang around in this one. I'll take the points.
I like the points as well. I do like the Jets to win this, but 6.5 feels like too much with the way these two teams have played through the first 2 weeks of the season. And I think, again, 38.5 is a lot of low over-unders this week. We're going to get to the lowest of them all here in a minute with the Chargers and the Steelers. But I think it can be a low-scoring, grinded-out game, and I just like this one to end within a touchdown.
So I saw a study. It was actually by my buddy Dale Lawley, who I host the Steelers show with. He was working on this last night, that penalties this year across the league are way up. And it spurred it on because Denver Steelers was just a flag fest. And I think it's something that the league really needs to correct. But I think that helps the Patriots of the world. You know, I mean, so I think it evens the playing field a little bit when you're a physical mudder type team, but not super talented. That if we're going to see a lot of penalties, I might take a lot of dogs, you know?
Scoring is down, passing is down, penalties are up. That helps. That helps what we just bet on with that line. By the way, all of the lines coming from FanDuel on today's episode. More on FanDuel momentarily as well. So we're both taking the New England the points with the Patriots here on Thursday Night Football to start off the week. Short week as well. Can be some ugly games that happen there. So I like the points here, even though I do like the Jets.
Not a bad road trip to go to New York either. You know, and the short week, I think that also narrows the playing field a little bit, evens the playing field a little bit too. I'll take the points. Yeah,
a lot of things working into the favor of a narrow playing field in the
exactly.
Indianapolis Colts 0-2 are favored hosting the 1-1 Chicago Bears. The Colts at home Sunday, favored by 1.5 points, and they're going to be without their best player on defense in DeForest Buckner. It looks like he's headed to IR, and he's been an Iron Man throughout his NFL career.
He has, and I think this is a massive loss for them. I mean, they play a very vanilla style of defense that is predicated on execution and, frankly, having better players than your opponent, and he's quite possibly their best player. I mean, this run defense was flat out hideous against the Packers, and now he's out of the equation completely. but I don't like how the Bears are playing either. But I do respect the Bears' defense, I guess, the most of these 4 units. Both these quarterbacks are, frankly, at the bottom of the league in all accuracy stuff you look at. I think I'm going to take the Bears just because I think their defense is the best unit.
I'm going to go the other way and take the Colts. I think it's a pick'em game, and since it's at Indianapolis, then I've got the Colts by 3. So 1.5 points isn't going to scare me off.
Okay.
And similar. We have a similar conversation with the young quarterbacks. Need to see something. Which does the light flip on for one of those 2 quarterbacks this week? That would be a big determining factor. Can the Bears just
see a little bit out of both of them? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
We've seen some splash plays, so maybe that's wrong, but a little more consistency. This
Yes.
makes play up.
Yes. And so for me, it's just I'll take the home team, and the Colts aren't gonna. The Colts are bad enough with DeForest Buckner, even though he's banged up last week.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be that much worse without him anyway because they're already bad. So
nowhere to go but out.
Yeah. And Richardson's just more experience in the NFL. So I'm at home. I think his light might switch a little quicker than the Bears, and that Bears offense and the way that's looked has just not been good so far. Even though I do think they're going to turn around and they're going to be okay. Could be another ugly game here. Might go under on the 43.5 as well. But
Seems
give
like
me
a lot. Yeah.
3. So we're split on that. Next up, Matt, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers at the Pittsburgh Steelers here. And this is one that is the lowest over-under on the week for good reason. And 35.5, I don't think is low enough with the way these 2 teams have played, the way they play on offense, the way they want to play on offense, the way they play on defense, the way they want to play on defense. It just all, and look, we'll end up with a 38 to 35 shootout, right? But this feels like a 96 game. 35.5 is the over-under. The big bet for me would go to the under here. And the home Pittsburgh Steelers are favored by 2 points at 2-0 against the 2-0 visiting Los Angeles Chargers.
I like the Steelers. Home opener. The Chargers, I don't know if it's a good move or a bad move, but stayed on the East Coast after playing in Carolina. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but I just found it noteworthy. It's not like, frankly, Carolina and Pittsburgh aren't near each other. They're both just in the same time zone. I'm not sure what. Just want to throw that out there. But I do think the offensive tackles against the edge players is a really key component to this game. And the holes that J.K. Dobbins has been running through and his production is off the charts. He's averaging like 9.9 yards a carry, and they're all on explosive runs and big holes, and he looks great. I just don't think that the Steelers will give that kind of stuff up. But the Chargers have Justin Herbert and haven't had to use him. Like I did a video today how he's like their secret weapon. They just have this great quarterback that they haven't had to do a thing with. They hardly even throws the ball. In this game, I think he'll be called on more, but I also think the Chargers roster is noticeably less than the Steelers, and a lot of their numbers are so skewed, much like the Saints, because they both played the Panthers.
Right. No, that's a good point. And how about this? Justin Herbert through 2 games, 274 passing yards. J.K. Dobbins almost as many rushing yards by himself, 266 rushing yards on 27 carries for Dobbins in the first 2 weeks. I think those holes are going to dry up a little bit against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they're going to try to run the ball still. And so that's what will be fascinating here if the immovable object meets the whatever it is force, and
right.
And we'll see if there's fireworks more in the second half with Justin Herbert. It could be the determining factor. Are you telling me that you want to take the points?
I got the Steelers here. How about this Herbert number? Before this year for his career, he averaged 39.1 pass attempts per game. This year he's thrown the ball 46 times. It's
he's cutting in half.
Right? It's nuts. I also think the line for the Chargers is very vulnerable. Their big people on defense is scary.
I like the Steelers as well. I like the Steelers by 1 because I've got them by 3 and the line is 2. But I just can't picture the Steelers going or the Chargers going into Pittsburgh and doing the same thing they did the first 2 weeks of the season.
Right.
But yeah, again, I'm taking the under on this one.
I am too. I think this is a 13-10 game.
Next, we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Dallas Cowboys, KC at Atlanta Sunday nighter, and 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. Two teams coming off losses and with a lot of injuries there. So we got to talk about injuries with multiple teams here. Next in the Peacock and Williamson 6-pack of picks. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by DoorDash. Football is finally back, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a play. What's your favorite thing to eat during a football game, right? Is it wings? DoorDash them. Is it? I know, Matt, we talk about, well, we watch football. We got to go fork and knife, right? So you can't really go.
When you're on the air with the headset on, yeah, absolutely.
But
or
if you're
trying to type,
if you're not working, what would it be?
Wings would be high on the list.
Yeah.
And I'm old school with wings. They have to be buffalo. I don't like all the
pizza.
flavors.
I like some other wings. To be honest with you, I like kind of dry wings and then dip in my own sauce in it. Is the way I like to do it. But whether it's drinks, food, maybe you need batteries for the remote control, you need groceries for your own burgers that you're cooking in the backyard. You just need that extra ingredient. You can get it all with DoorDash. And by the way, sometimes you go to somebody else's watch party and it's not as the spread isn't up to snuff for you, then you can go DoorDash some things yourself and add to somebody else's party. It doesn't have to be your own party. And use promo code LOCKEDFALL24 for 50%.
Don't think they're being generous, but you just don't like what they have to offer.
Right, exactly. LOCKEDFALL24 is the promo code for 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 and over to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. This episode and all of the lines we reference on today's program are brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And we talk so much about FanDuel, and there's a reason they're America's #1 sports book. It's because of offers like this, and not a lot of time left to get in on this offer. So sign up at FanDuel.com, because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And then with your FanDuel account, you can bet on your favorite team to win the Super Bowl, your favorite team to bet on this week in Williamson and Peacock's Sunday 6-pack. You've got tons of sports to bet on, not just NFL, but come on, let's be honest, we're all NFL fans here, and FanDuel's got you covered for tons of props every single week, and it's so much fun. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's finish up our 6-pack of picks for week number 3. That brings us to the Baltimore Ravens at the Dallas Cowboys. And we got the Dallas Cowboys, a home dog, which doesn't happen very often, Matt. And it's only 1 point. The Cowboys are 1-point underdogs to the Baltimore Ravens in week number 3. I'm going to take that point and take the Dallas Cowboys just because I've at least seen one good football game from them. And we've seen a total of 4 games from these two teams and 3 stinkers and 1 good one. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys at home.
I am too, and I might really regret it, because sometimes this time of year I say things to myself like, is there a world I can picture the Baltimore Ravens being 0-3? Like, that just doesn't jive with my all NFL career or the last decade or the Harbaugh era. Or if they lose this week, I'm going to say it again, because could they be 0-4? Like, that seems weird.
Well, definitely since the last decade, because it's been a decade since the Ravens were 0-2, let alone 0-3.
Really?
Yeah,
that adds up. But they have some concerns. I mean, they do not close teams out well. I think they have not found the offensive identity and how Henry fits in. But the defensive line or offensive line is what scares me most. And I think Parsons and Zimmer should be able to create a lot of problems. We know Lamar versus NFC teams are uncommon opponents. He eats them for lunch. But I think Dallas at home is a little desperate too. I don't think this is a great time to get Dallas either. They just got embarrassed, and they're a better team than that. I mean, so I think this is a very even game.
I really like that matchup. That matchup of Parsons against the the rotation at right tackle that they're trying to figure out for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, that is a huge matchup that the Cowboys can win here. But and I think that there's something to it. And I've seen it with the Ravens against the 49ers, and I've seen it with the Ravens against a bunch of teams, even good teams in the NFC. If you don't play against Lamar a lot, it's different. Yep. He's one of one in the NFL.
100%. Like the Steelers handle him well. They see him all the time. They've been the same staff game planning for him all over and over. But most of these guys in the NFC, when they play him, it's the first time they've ever seen him. You can't simulate him in practice. His style of play is different. And he looks more explosive this year than last as a runner. He lost a little bit of weight. So I absolutely think they can win. I'm going to take Dallas at home, though. I probably would take Baltimore if it was in Baltimore.
I agree. Dallas home dog. Come on. I think they're a better team than what we saw last week for that.
Might be getting ahead of ourselves with that.
The 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams Sunday, and this is the 1-1 Niners at the 0-2 Rams. Niners favored by 7.5. I was hoping this was going to be smaller line. The Rams are first of all, the Rams have looked bad, and the Rams are also decimated with injury on top of that. It looks like they might miss 14 starters in this game, including
14. It's only week 2.
I know. So offensive line, it's basically Sam Darnold by himself with a bunch of backups on offense. I mean, there's some players, and they were pretty deep at wide receiver. So if there was a position that they could, they could withstand some losses. But man, Cooper Kupp, he might go on IR. I don't think there's been an official determination there. Very unlikely he's going to play. Puka Nacua already on IR. So you've got like Tyler Johnson and Demarcus Robinson, and you got Tutu Atwell, and you got the rookie Jordan Whittington, who's one of my favorites to pick up in fantasy leagues this week, by the way, because he's got some Puka to his game. Big slot guy, can tough run after the catch. But then you're going up against Fred Warner, the 49ers defense here. And the 49ers are going to be angry coming off a loss. And it's not much of a home field advantage for the Rams in Southern California. They call it Levi's South for a reason, because there's always a lot of 49ers fans in LA in these matchups. And 7.5 points is a lot, though. So what do you think on that line?
What's the Debo situation? He's out, right?
Debo's out. He's going to miss a couple of weeks. He's got a calf injury.
Okay, I thought so. And
Chris McCaffrey already on IR as well. So the injury's mounting for the 49ers as well. But they have Brandon Ayuk, who's now got a couple of games after his hold-in. Slow start for him for the season. You got George Kittle, and the 49ers have been running the ball well with Jordan Mason. We talked about 266 yards in the first 2 games for J.K. Dobbins, just a little bit ahead of Jordan Mason, who's got 247 yards in the first 2 games.
So you mentioned at the beginning of previewing this game that you were hoping it would be under 7. I was sitting there thinking this might be double digits. So I would set this line at like 9.5 to 10.5 neighborhood. So I think the Niners, after not getting embarrassed, but not playing their best, and especially on defense, are really going to stifle these guys. I think Bosa has 3 sacks, one of those type of days.
And aside from a very important NFC Championship game, Kyle Shanahan has had Sean McVay's number in those head-to-head matchups as well.
True. I think that's important.
Yeah, the Rams, I mean, after seeing the Rams last week, and again, I was a little lower on some people than the Rams, and they're pretty decimated right now. This is a prime 49ers bounce-back game, and I think the Rams might be in trouble at 0-3.
I think they're in big trouble.
The final game in our 6-pack of picks for week number 3 is the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. They are on the road at the Atlanta Falcons. Chiefs favored by 3.5 points in Atlanta. Atlanta playing much better in week 2. A little bit of a short week, though, for the Falcons coming off the Monday Nighter. And the Super Bowl champions coming to town. 3.5 points, that feels like not quite enough.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling about this one. I mean, we're going to have replacement running back, but I don't think that's a massive problem or a big deal for the Chiefs. But
that's one of the big reasons I wanted to bring this game up, and it was in our 6-pack because of that news. And thank you for bringing it up, because I almost forgot. Is that the starting running back, Isaiah Pacheco, for the Chiefs is expected to land on injured reserve, according to Adam Schefter. He's got a fibula injury, and that's a heck of a bone that might be fractured. So that's longer than just a few weeks, or even the minimum 4 weeks if he's put on IR. So looks like there's a very good chance he's going to miss a lot. And so we'll see that ends up happening. And I don't know if you kind of said it there. I don't know if it matters who the running back is for the Kansas City.
And in the fantasy world, it's not even real obvious who the replacement is. I mean, they're talking about Steele, and I mean, but there's no great replacement.
What is Steele's first name?
I don't remember. I
almost called him Craig Steele, and so I had to look it up. It's Carson Steele.
Carson Steele. Okay,
Yeah.
I might even try that multiple choice, and come to think of it. That being said, I'll take the Chiefs. You would night game in the dome, brutal, hard to play. But an opening day, it was 50% Steeler fans in Atlanta. Like, I'm sure Kansas City will travel well for a game like this. Nice destination. Go to Atlanta for the weekend. I think San Fran's KC is noticeably better on both sides of the ball, I'd say. Although I was encouraged with what the Falcons offense did this past week.
And
it's a short week.
We mentioned this with the Baltimore Ravens, and they're playing a rookie or kind of a backup level veteran, kind of in and out at right tackle. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs, even last week, against the Cincinnati Bengals, had a little bit of trouble, and the rookie left tackle having some problems. The Atlanta Falcons have the right personnel like Hendrickson to take advantage of that matchup and win that too. If that's if you're trying to looking for ways for one team to win and for the Falcons to win against the Kansas City Chiefs in certain matchups, that could be one of the few. But is that how the Atlanta Falcons are built to win?
Right. I don't think they are, and I think Kansas City will be well prepared. And you have a lot of places to attack that Falcons defense. I mean, Terrell's a good player, but I don't think he has to follow anyone in particular. Maybe he's on Rice a fair amount, but that's out of the slot. Mahomes was, I would say, bad for his standard. I mean, it's one of the worst games I've seen him play, and I don't think that's going to happen twice in a row.
Yeah, 3.5 is not enough. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs here.
Yeah,
so we're in agreement on a lot of these. Chicago Indy is the one that we disagreed on in our 6-pack this week, Matt. There's something we teased yesterday that I want to get into next, and I want Matt Williamson's power rankings on the unbeaten teams in the NFC because they're all really tight. Let's bust that cluster next. The next segment of Locked on Peacock and Williamson on the Locked On Podcast Network is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the place to find last-minute tickets or any tickets for your next event, including NFL football games. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff, so they show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And we're talking about tickets to NFL games. We're talking about NBA and NHL tickets when those get going. Major League Baseball seats. You can find some fantastic deals on baseball games at the end of the season. Up to 60% savings on some last-minute seats. Concerts, comedy shows, you name it. You can absolutely find it. Get a view from your seat, panoramic view from the app, so you know what you're going to get before you buy. And toggle on the all-in pricing so you get no surprise fees at checkout. And you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. You picking up Carson Steele in your fantasy leagues, by the way? He's the #1 waiver wire guy this week.
I threw a cheap offer out there that probably won't be enough to get him.
Okay.
I just think you got to do that when running backs show up like they're going to be the one, even on bad teams. There's so much attrition at that position. I think you just add anyone you can, is going to get the ball.
Right. And then it could become the next Pacheco because that's what happened with him, right?
Or you trade him.
What about with Tyler Johnson and Whittington at wide receiver?
Well, I think Robinson should probably be in every league, don't you think, at this point?
Okay.
I mean, I picked him up
myself.
Okay.
I just feel like Robinson's role was already there. And so
I like Whittington as a player.
You want that big slot guy. And I feel like Whittington is so similar to Puka Nacua. And he could be
just have him do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just like, you're tough over the middle, catch the ball, give some run after the catch, and we're going to pepper you with targets.
Might be worth it. I mean, I'm not blowing my fab money for either one of these guys yet, but put in a box. Yeah. Not bad.
Let's take a look at these teams here. And we teased it. We were asked about it in the Peacock and Williamson mailbag this week. So let's finish up today's podcast with this, Matt. How do you rank those teams in the NFL that are unbeaten in the NFC? Because they are all very tight for you. And now that we've had a chance to sleep on it a little bit and start looking at week 3 and look at these teams a little bit more and look at these games a little bit more, you got the New Orleans Saints, you got the Seattle Seahawks, there is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Minnesota Vikings are all 2-0 right now in the NFC, and they are the only teams in the NFC that are 2-0. How do you rank those teams?
I would really cluster them together. I didn't end up doing power ranks, but I would have these guys all pretty high, probably 9 through 14. Probably all above average. I would say above 16, not in the top 6-ish. But I rank those for New Orleans. I mean, they have like a plus 66 point differential. I mean, Carolina's horrendous, but I mean, they're just blowing people apart. So that's hard to ignore.
Yeah, I wonder how far out from those Carolina games we have to get to normalize what teams are.
I think it's a big deal. I mean, I think there's 31 teams in the league, and then there's them. And if you played them, everything's different. I went with Tampa 2. They were a playoff team last year, solid veteran leadership, established coach, Baker's pretty good. I think Tampa's playing well. I went for the Vikings 3, mostly based on coaching. Both sides of the ball, I think, is superb. And Darnold's all right. I'm not out of the woods with him. I don't think that, his career is saved, but we are headed that direction. And Seattle, last of the group. But I have great respect for what the Seahawks have done.
I don't think I can argue with that. I would ask you the next question if it goes.
I had one for you too, yeah.
Saints, Bucks, Vikings, Seahawks. And they're all tight, right? There's probably no teams in between them, especially if we're looking at just the NFC. So how many teams are above those 4 teams in the NFC?
That's the exact same thing I was going to bring up. We've been doing this a long time. I still would have the Niners ahead of them.
I would too.
I would still have Detroit ahead of them.
Yes.
I would still have the Eagles ahead of them.
The Saints beat up on the Cowboys.
Get to them last. The last 2, I think, are hairy. Like, I think San Fran, Detroit, and Philly are all above those 4. Green Bay with Jordan Love. Not this version, but if he's back this week or next, I'll take the Packers over those 4. And Dallas, I'm not sure. Dallas would be maybe clustered right in there. Maybe they're behind New Orleans ahead of Tampa, or third of the in between, somewhere in there. It seems crazy to put Dallas ahead of the Saints.
Yeah, but they've got scoreboard.
That's what I mean. I mean, I can't put Dallas over the Saints after they just got their doors blown off by them.
No, that's fair.
But they'd be over Seattle. Pretty good group. I mean, we just named 9 teams. And maybe I'd even throw the Falcons in as playoff worthy. Where the AFC, you're running out of playoff worthy teams pretty quick.
I'm trying to find. Yeah, I mean, then you have some tough teams too. Like, the Bears. The Bears are 1-1. What's that going to end up looking like? The better and better that their rookie quarterback gets. Arizona Cardinals,
I like what Arizona
on offense, are ready to go. How good can that defense be? Can they do enough on defense to be in this thing and be talking about as a wild card team with some of those others? So, there's fewer teams that are going to be out of it early, and maybe the Rams are one of them, and they're one that we didn't even expect. Yeah,
I mean, the Rams. More teams in the AFC took the Rams path of could be good. And now it's looking bleak, like Jacksonville and especially Miami. All of a sudden, it's like, man, they got a lot to overcome now. It could be an Indy, teams that could have been 8 to 10 wins. All of a sudden, don't look like that in the AFC.
Let us know what you think at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Get your mailbag questions in as well. How do you rank those teams? How do you bust that cluster in the NFC?
It is a cluster.
Rankings? It's definitely a cluster. And when you start adding in the 2-0 and 1-1 teams, it gets really, really tight. It's gonna be a fun season in the NFC.
It is. Times are changing.
Thanks all the everydayers out there. Thanks for making this your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Dynasty featuring Matt Williams on occasion. Locked On NFL featuring Matt Williamson on occasion. You can check out Locked On 49ers if you want to hear more of me talking about one specific team. And, of course, your team's covered right here on the Locked On Podcast Network for your second listen pleasure. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Matt and I are back tomorrow. Mailbag time right here. Peacock and Williamson.